Good to see you again and welcome back to the Blink podcast, whether you're watching it on YouTube or listening to it on your favorite podcasting app, whichever one that may be, we are there. Today we're touching on a really important topic, sort of flowing on from the COVID lockdown scenario, but now as many places are opening up again and re-emerging, there is an issue that is arising among many businesses that myself, Jonathan Creek, your co-host, and also our other co-host, Darren Prattley, are dealing with and witnessing at the moment. We're calling it COVID fatigue, and it's happening when people are emerging from lockdown and having to go back to work. It's an issue that we think leaders of business need to be really aware of and to focus on, and we're going to tackle it today. So without any further ado, welcome to my little mate across the ditch, Darren Prattley. G'day, mate. How are you?
Hey, Jonathan. Good to see you, mate. Hey, it's good to be here, and I'm certainly very excited about this topic, mate. It was a great idea, and I think for people that are really, getting through this COVID period and starting to see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, these issues, these key 5 areas that we've come up with, I think are going to be a great topic for people to get their heads around and certainly start being able to apply them back in their businesses. So really, really hoping that everyone is starting to get a bit of a plan and starting to realize that we need to really make that happen ourselves. And I think, in the discussions that we've had already is just so important that we get a plan for this stuff.
Yeah, so let's frame it up a little bit to begin with. So you're in Auckland, New Zealand. You've had the toughest lockdown of the whole of the New Zealand Isles, North Island, South Island. I'm in Melbourne. We've had the toughest lockdown of any place in the world. World champions. We'll take that. Yay. But what we're seeing are real issues, real problems that we didn't expect. And just to sort of frame it up is we've gone through second Freedom Day, which was Friday, which is, they're calling it freedom with a capital F, where the original Freedom Day was with a little f. So we've gone to capital F Freedom Day. People have gone mad in the shops. Retailers are reporting in the big shopping centres anyway, Christmas-like sales and traffic. Wow. So people are bouncing back with cash. Yeah. But in the business world amongst the workforce, we're seeing different. So we're seeing people letting their hair down and spending and making themselves feel good by spending. But when it comes to work and working, we're hearing terms like, out of America, the Great Resignation, the Great Reset. And we're seeing people who, across social media, and that's probably how we get to see a whole lot of people's reactions and how they're dealing with this stuff, is initial hype about Freedom Days coming, but when it arrives, we're seeing this reluctance to re-enter. And I made a video about it a couple of weeks ago called COVID Fatigue, and it was really advice and steps for how leaders of business or leaders of teams need to identify the staff that are suffering this, because there's going to be people acting differently, right?
100%. And I think that's the big part of this that we are only just starting to scratch the surface on, is what the actual impacts of these lockdowns have been on people's personal well-being, their family environments, but also in their business environments as well. And I think that's why, in terms of the topics we've got today, I think these are really critical for owners and managers of teams to get their heads around and actually start putting some clear plans in place of how they can really, support their teams, but also make sure their businesses come out of it with the sense of success, which I think is critical.
Now, considering that Melbourne is a couple of weeks ahead of Auckland in terms of exiting, I think one things I've noticed is, yes, we celebrate it as Freedom Day. We celebrate that we can go back outside. We don't have to wear masks. We can reintegrate with the community. But I think the biggest mistake is that people thought things were going to return to normal. And things aren't properly normal compared to what we're used to. And maybe they never will be. Yeah, maybe it's that realization that's bringing this extra weight to bear. And so I think what's important for us to recognize, both you and I, is that everybody's different. And I think we both do that in our individual sets and trainings anyway. But I think what we're seeing is that people are reacting differently. Different people are reacting differently, and this is new, and so everyone's just learning about it.
Yeah.
And so what we're going to try and do today is give leaders tools, tips, and approaches. Maybe not all of them will be right for them, but maybe there will be bits that they can take to try and
Yeah.
help get their teams back up and running. Because the one thing that we've learned from overseas, particularly the UK and the US, is once Freedom Days are done and the celebration's taken, business is booming. We're already seeing it in retail, but business booms. We're also leading into Christmas down here in the Southern Hemisphere with our Freedom Days. Those guys, the other countries had them middle of the year, more of a time that's conducive for doing work, where we're sort of traditionally going into a shutdown period.
Yep.
What do you think's going to happen? Are we going to still have that shutdown period, do you think, or is it going to be shortened and things are going to be busier than ever? Are we going to see companies setting records for January when traditionally it's the sleepy time? How do you think it's going to play out the next 6 to 8 weeks?
I think you're going to have a much shorter Christmas period. To be honest, I think what you're going to start to see is this tighter period. But everyone knows that they've got to get their businesses back going again. We've got to get a sense of getting this world moving and getting our core revenue streams back in place again. We've got to get those business relationships and customer connections back going again to build a workflow. Because you've got to remember that in many businesses, it's not like a retail store where a person walks in your store and buys a product that day. Some of these businesses require a 2 week, 5 week, even a 2 month lead-in period for their sales transactions to actually happen. So because of that, I think one of the things we're going to realize that there'll be a lot of drive and motivation to get these businesses going. But I do know there are a lot of businesses that are really questioning why they're there. Are they going to be able to survive? Are they going to be able to get through? And I think, again, that's, again, for leaders in these businesses, that's pretty challenging stuff. And I think if we can give them a bit of some tools anyway in terms of the topics that we've got, I think it will sort of help them make some decisions and actually make some implementation happen. Because I think right now is letting things drift is certainly not a healthy place to be. Even if you do things that don't eventuate, at least you're getting your business moving in a direction and getting as prepared as you can for and with the information that we're getting.
Yeah, I think it's really important that leaders and business owners, I think they need to follow two things. I think there's two things that they need to be aware of straight off the bat. I think the first thing is that emotions are heightened
Yep.
across the board. And so I don't think there's going to be a lot of benefit. You may disagree with me here. I don't think there's going to be a lot of benefit from having a disruptive or emotionally charged workplace. I think you need to control the highs and also control the lows. So sort of try and remove the emotion out of things and try and make things a bit smoother.
Yep.
There's a guy who I've
But I
got a
think,
really
Jonathan, one of
nifty.
the things, mate, is to have that discussion, though, isn't it? Like,
Yeah.
one of the things is to actually have a discussion with your team and just make everybody aware that emotions are high and could be low. And we just, as a team, have to be able to maintain that steady space. Because I think that, to me, is that having that discussion, at least it puts that topic on the table.
Yeah, and I think it can even stretch back to things just like loud noises and people skylarking in the office and being
Yeah.
silly and running around and screaming and shouting and scaring people. That sort of stuff all adds to the other stresses and anxieties that
Yeah.
people are dealing with at the moment that typically aren't
Yeah. That's
shouldn't
it.
be there or aren't there normally. So, it's sort of imagine people fill up, and they've got this much space to sort of spike their anxieties. This level, which is normally at your nipples, is now sort of sitting under their chin. So they're a lot closer to tipping over the edge. And I
Yeah.
think we need to be respectful for that. I think that's the first thing leaders need to do. I
Yeah.
think the
Totally.
second thing comes from a guy who I respect a lot by the name of Paul McGee from the UK. He's written a book called Sumo. Shut Up, Move On. It's his whole system. He's actually written 14 books. I mean, just to brag. He's only got 14 bestsellers. Like, come on. But he says um, his advice and they've been through what we're about to go through. He said the best thing to do is to get people to do things that gives them wins.
Yep.
So just get them creating stuff that gives them little wins, and that just starts the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And once they start getting a few little wins and a few little wins, they just start and they get back into a rhythm of things, and they can start to see that they're having an effect and it's working, and they're moving on. Because I think, yeah, even topics like conversations like we're having now, Darren, where we say, you've only got 6 weeks to Christmas or 8 weeks to Christmas, you've got to go now in order to be good for January. That for some people is like, oh my God, I've just spent 100 days inside my house, probably understimulated. And then all of a sudden I've got these two guys say, go,
Woo-hoo!
go, 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 go. And, that in itself can be overwhelming. So I think that's another thing we've got to be aware of. Give them small wins to start, and then they'll get back into their stride. What do you reckon?
100%. Yeah, I agree. I think that's definitely the case, and just to make people aware that, hey, that these small wins are going to lead us back to a new marketplace that we just have to now cope with and work in and be aware of, and I think that's the small wins starting point is a great point to make. Yeah, absolutely.
So let's. So we've touched on the managing well-being and advancement. I think that's the two topics that we've just hit. I think it's really important to be as a leader. I think you've got to be more tuned in than ever to your people, not just sitting in your office and having a casual chat over the coffee machine or the tea or in the tea room. I think you've actively got to be in your office and feeling the mood, the vibe. Understand it. Even if that means for the next couple of weeks between now and Christmas, you move your desk out into an
100%.
office.
Yeah, it's a great point.
Similar.
And we've got offices where we're encouraging people now to actually go have the managers go with the sales team or go with the sales reps out actually with them out to meet customers and provide that sense of support and, hey, I'm here to help, and not being overpowering, obviously, but just to be a sense of, hey, we're actually out in the field with you rather than sitting back, drinking your coffee and pointing the finger. It's just a case now of, providing that extra level of support. So again, I think it's a good way to encourage people to be doing that.
Yeah, and I think from a leader point of view, I think if you're the leader of your business, what a great insight into how the market's changed. No better way for you to come from a position of authority or expertise than
actually being out there.
Being out there and experiencing it with your sales team.
Yeah,
so
100%.
that they're going to respect you so much for being there. They're going to know that, hey, you understand if something doesn't quite go right. I mean, that's sort of where we think about with business. We catastrophize a little bit, that we worry about what could go wrong rather than what could go right. But if something does go wrong, particularly at a time where, some people's businesses are close to the edge, so those losses carry a much heavier weight. If you're the head of the business or head of the department and you're out there with them and you understand exactly why it fell through, they're going to feel a lot less stressed about it. They're not going to have that drive back to the office where they've got to walk into your office and say, we just lost our second biggest account. If you're there with them, well, that removes that, and sure, it puts your business still in a tailspin. The initial challenges are still the same, but at least you're actually preserving the energy of your team, because your team's the one who can help you get out of it.
But you think about from a customer's perspective, if you've got the two people coming from a company and they're really engaged with actually helping you get your business out of where it is and provide you support by doing the level of service that is unique, or helping them get out of there, you're going to build and strengthen that relationship with your customer. These are the opportunities right now to do this, and that's why, I totally agree. Getting your backside out of your office, getting out with your team is just so important.
Yeah. The second bit, I think, is we sort of touched on a little bit, but constructive conversations. How would you approach, say it's day one, almost like, when you return you have 2 weeks over Christmas and you have that day one, everyone's sort of catching up with each other, probably not a lot of work getting done. Probably coming out of lockdown, we're going to have a similar feel when people start floating back to the office. How do you approach that day? What are the constructive conversations and the pattern that you put in place for re-entry?
Probably the best thing that I suggest for people is to have a planned structure for the day. Don't let this day just happen. Don't let people float in, float out. Let's get that team meeting, get everybody in a room together, have some discussions about it's like to be back, what are the challenges, what are the opportunities, and actually get people to realize that they're working back as a team again. Do some things around actually having some discussions about how they've felt about lockdown and what it's meant for their personal businesses maybe, and what it means back together again as a team. And also then start talking about the opportunities, because I don't know about you, Jonathan, but for me, to be able to have a future plan of seeing the opportunity of success, where we can go and what we can do, is how it brings your team together and starts to give them a common purpose. And you really have to drive that as a leader in your business. You have to give them the vision picture going forward about where we're going and why we're going there. And for me, having some structure around that first day, we're going to have a team meeting for an hour. We're going to do a few one-on-ones individually with the team as we go through the day. We're going to do a couple of even role play and practice sessions about, being out pitching our wares again, and actually how we will talk to our customers. And that stuff there is so constructive, and it really gives our teams a sense of purpose, and it doesn't let them drift, because again, that anxiety of now being back at work and actually now having to get out and do stuff, from a leader's perspective about helping your team re-engage with that space, I think is so important.
You mentioned a trigger word for me in there, Darren, and that's role playing. I feel, and I don't know if you pick up on this, but you're a master of role playing. You love it. You throw it into general conversations. I mean, we can be talking about what we like to eat at McDonald's, and you'll just throw in a role play at me, and I'm like thrown back. I actually am someone who feels really uncomfortable about role playing. But in the last couple of weeks, you and I have had some really great off-camera discussions, and you've thrown role-playing at me, and you've forced me to think on my feet. And over time, probably three or four efforts, I'm starting to feel more comfortable with it now, and I'm coming into conversations ready for it. And I must admit, role-playing is something that I really underestimated. I actually think, I used to think, oh, gee, it's a bit sort of a bit wanky, it's a bit whatever. But my God, the power of it, just because I think you can explain this, for me, I feel like it's setting down the path. It's giving me a target. I'm entering into conversations and I'm not nervous about where it's going to go, because I've already played it out in my head, so I know how to take it and play it. And incredibly, much to your credit, who would have thunk it, when I do it, it actually works. And you go in so much calmer. There's no anticipation, or there's anticipation and excitement rather than worry and fear. And that's what you've done. It's the same energy, but you've flipped it.
So and John, one of the things I like to do in this situation is give you an analogy. And I come from a sporting background in terms, I come from tennis and was a tennis coach and enjoyed coaching tennis. And one of the things I used to do with my juniors all the time was this one shot, which was this wide forehand down the line, right? And we would practice it every practice session over and over and over again, until it all of a sudden becomes almost second nature, so that in a match situation, when the pressure's on and you've got to be able to hit this one forehand down the line winner to win the match or to get yourself out of a hole, that you've practiced it 100 times, so that that actually in that moment, you don't have to think. It just happens because you've practiced it before. And I bring that to business as well, because I know with sales teams, and if you can get them to practice and practice and practice and practice and get really good and comfortable with it, seriously, as you said, when you walk into the actual situation, you actually don't have to think too much, because you've practiced it and it becomes very automatic. And that's the piece for me is people say to me, oh, Darren, I'm uncomfortable with role plays. You are, because you don't want to feel like a dick, or you don't want to feel and show that you're not good at what you're doing or feel unprepared. But actually, would that be worse if you were actually in front of a customer and miss an opportunity because you haven't done that preparation? I just look at it and go, how crazy that would be. I might as well do the practice back at the office with my team, know that I'm learning and being able to get really good at what I do. And then by the time I actually get out with the customer, it just flows because I've practiced it and I'm good at it. And boy, once you've got that sense of confidence around what you do, and as you just said, then you have a sense of excitement about going into those meetings, knowing that whatever the question is the customer's going to throw, you're going to be able to handle that situation. And I just work with role plays quite often, and not in a confrontational way. I don't put a person at the front of the room and say, right, let's critique this person while in front of the room. I basically put people into pairs, get them to go into their own offices, and just do it in a way that they can start to feel comfortable about doing that practice. And then once they get a bit more comfortable with that, do some recordings of it, so video record it, and then be able to watch it back themselves and just see how good they are at it. Because boy, once you start using the skill and role playing and getting yourself better at what you do, man, your opportunity in front of the customer just changes straight away.
And I think from a leadership team's perspective is the people who benefit the most from role playing are probably the lower performers. Because they get to work with the top dogs.
Or the newbies. Exactly. Someone who's new to the industry, someone who's relatively new, you can, and that's what I see these days is the opportunity for some of our younger crew coming into different industries. If you can get them to do role plays with the higher performers in the organizations, seriously, the younger people learn so fast and be able to apply those principles when they're in front of a customer. Their results are incredible very, very quickly. And I look back over many years and just think back to, the training courses that people go on. They learn the content, but they don't learn to apply it. And for me these days, I just go, if you can get that application and implementation sorted, your results become very, very, strong very quickly.
Yeah, great way to supercharge your business.
Yeah.
Now, Darren, you were saying, look in your notes here, coming out of this, you should be looking at digital transformation. Now, the term, I just had a bug. I got a bug in my office. Sorry for being distracted, but I'm highly observant.
You're in Australia, mate. You've put your hat on with the corks.
Yeah, I need it, but I might wreck this hair. See, for those on the podcast, I've got my hair.
Carry on.
So, digital transformation. Now, there is a term we're all zoomed out. We've got Zoom fatigue. We've got this. We've got that. Everyone wants to get off their computers and be human again. I can tell you right now, in the real estate space in Melbourne, there was a big hype about auctions returning to face-to-face. Well, guess what? People are still breaking records on prices selling online on Zoom. There's great technology starting to emerge now where you've got the auctioneer at the top. The bids are being listed in real time underneath. Everyone knows where they are. They're not having to drive out to the suburb. They can attend 3 or 4 auctions in a night or a day. I think there was one the other day. Now get this, right? 9:30. This is real estate, Darren. 9:30 on a Sunday morning. And it set a record. I think it set it was a record price by over 130 grand.
How cool's that?
Online.
How cool's that?
Now, I would have thought in real estate that Sundays are not the good time for auctions. 9:30 in the morning is not a good time for an auction. But technology and digital transformation is allowing for these things to happen, and not only that, be successful.
You got it. Hey, and isn't this a fantastic way, like, especially in the real estate industry right now, we've got a situation where many people are questioning the value of a real estate agent, valuing, what is the value of the service? What do we do for the money? All of that sort of discussion is going on. And then all of a sudden you now start talking about digital transformation where you make it more convenient for a customer to be able to purchase a home, to be able to bring the salespeople into an environment where they've got more skills and more technology they can provide a vendor in terms of showing the value of their service. This is fantastic, and that's why leading with digital transformation is we've had this drive now of helping our consumer go to a digital platform in many instances. Well, we've got to maintain that. We've got to enhance that. We've got to keep using that. And I think as consumers, we've all started to realize how much easier it is to transact electronically in many instances. Well, that's the opportunity for us now to keep the customer being able to transact that way.
Yeah, I think there's going to be, and we'll do another episode on the metaverse because I'm really interested to get your ideas on this.
Yes. Yeah.
because I don't know if you understand the metaverse, Darren, but there's about 4 different worlds out there that are all virtual, and they're starting to sell real estate on the metaverse.
Yep.
So you can buy your waterfront patch in a digital environment with real money, and then hopefully
Look,
someone else wants to pay you more for it at some stage. That's I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That's
hey,
probably a topic for
hey,
another time, but
look, digital transformation is in all areas of our lives and our world, right? It's all different places and all different industries are being affected by it. And that's why what I want managers and leaders of business to be thinking about is you've got to embrace and you've got to even push yourself to go down digital transformation in areas that you may not be personally comfortable with at the moment. Get some specialist help, get some specialist support, and get people to talk about your business into the future is how will customers transact using a digital platform? How will we communicate with customers on a digital platform? I've got many real estate agents who have been locked down in an environment but have been hugely successful, even though locked down, is using these Zoom Teams formats to be able to communicate and have discussions with their customers. It is such a great way to do it, and you don't have to go driving out in the middle of the night just to have a cup of coffee with somebody. You can actually do it from your own home. So I just think that these are the opportunities of where digital transformation is coming. It's going to take us down many different avenues, and as leaders in the space, we've got to open ourselves up to being able to be aware of the options and then start picking directions of where we want to make our business go. Because I think these are going to be very strategic decisions
yeah.
for where your business success is going to be in the future. And I think it's important to get good help around that.
I agree. I think digital transformation is such a big word that I don't think people always realize it. I think when you talk about digital transformation in business, a lot of people just say, oh, they mean social media. But then, there's the whole other side of it. It's your business processes and your systems. It can
Yeah,
be
love
software upgrades. It can be hardware deployment. It can be how you market, how
it. Yeah,
you maintain your database, how you nurture that community around the database. There are so many different ways that digital is reaching into our lives now.
yeah,
The one warning that I'd give to people is technology is great unless it moves you away from the humans.
yeah,
So I was like to say, the simple rule, and I like simple rules, Darren, because I'm a simple guy. This is how I see it. Good technology brings you closer to people.
yeah,
Bad technology moves you away. That's how you should be making your decisions. Because the sales guys for technology will promise you the world. They will tell you this is it and everything. They'll tell you automate your social media posts, for example. I mean, things like Hootsuite and stuff like that, scheduling your posts months
yeah,
out. I mean, there's all these guys around that are in all the industries we work in. Hey, come to us for a 1-day session, pay you $1,500 Australian, and we'll set out your content strategy for 12 months. We'll
yeah.
give you 365 ideas of content that you can make in 2 days that will serve you for the rest of the year. Well, guess what? That's actually moving you away from the humans because you don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And if something big happens, like COVID, the next
Oh, 100%.
365 days of content that you just made is
Yeah.
completely irrelevant and a waste, and you're now out of touch and moved away from your potential customers and client base.
So what you're saying to me then is that the immediacy of your digital transformation, because it's one of the things that I've been challenged by a number of times in different roles that I've had, is investing in technology for now, but also into the future. We're going to invest a large sum of money to give us benefit in 3 or 4 years' time. Well, by the time 3 or 4 years comes around, guess what? Technology's changed again. We've spent a whole lot of money, and there's new technology now that actually does a lot of the things that we wanted it to do, but also takes the business or the software platform even further down the track of automation, and the costs become cheaper. So I guess that whole technology area is definitely an area that businesses have got to get a clearer plan. But I guess the challenge is that with the speed of change in technology is don't jump too far too fast, and just make sure that it's delivering what you need to over the next 6 to 12 month period.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to get wowed and wooed by technology. I'm definitely someone, I'm an early adopter. I love technology around cameras and, drones and stabilizers and all the little gadgets that are around. And, it's really easy to go down a rabbit hole with very little benefit.
Yeah,
I've got friends of mine who, they've got the GoPro Hero 9 and the GoPro Hero 10's just come out, and they're instantly buying. They're the first ones in line to buy the 10. When you
yeah,
compare the two, or the vision out of the two, you and I can't tell the difference across
yeah,
the internet. Because guess what? The major platforms like Facebook, they want 720p. Now,
right.
if you put 720p as a resolution on your television, that's old television. You'd look at that and go, "Oh, this picture's awful, Darren. You need to get a new antenna or a new coaxial cable or new internet because your picture is terrible at 720p."
Yeah,
Right? But these cameras are now talking about shooting 5K, 120 frames per second. And guess what? The people then put the vision onto Facebook, say, "Hey, have a look at this video I shot." And Facebook then spends 20 minutes downgrading it, making it
downgrading it.
720p, and so it looks crap. And
And
so,
mate, how many businesses do we know that are exactly in that situation where they go and spend zillions of dollars on new software in their businesses and then A, don't use it, B, can't understand how to use it,
mm,
or it takes a specialist to be able to customize it for their business, which costs a hell of a lot of money and really doesn't add a lot of benefit to their business. And I think
yeah,
that's you're giving great examples of exactly where this whole area of digital transformation is
mm,
having these major effects on business. But what we've got to make sure that our leaders in business have a clear plan of where they want to go with that digital space and to get the appropriate support to make that happen.
yeah. And I think another thing is, so consider the distance, the change in distance that the technology creates with your human customer. I think the other thing to also consider is if you're looking at upgrading technology or, introducing a digital transformation into your business, is right now, there's a lot of businesses who are booming off the back of technology.
Yep.
The ones who are spending on technology are booming. The ones who are struggling, they're not thinking about digital
Investment.
transformation
Yep.
a lot, but
Yep.
they need to be thinking about being present on digital.
Yep.
If you've got time and you're not that busy, you're only operating at 40% capacity, use the spare time to increase your presence on digital. It may not get you a customer off the back of whatever video you post, but in
Right
10
now.
videos time you
Yep.
probably will.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with
So
that, mate.
I
That's
think,
that's a big one.
so when we do look at these digital transformations, don't just look at how it's going to serve your business in a boom, but look at how it'll benefit you in a bust.
Yep, 100%. Gold.
All right. I think the last topic that we want to touch on is building top talent and teams. So you're big on
Yeah.
this. You're big on not just getting the best of the best, but orchestrating, almost like you said sport before, picking the best team. You can't,
Yep.
you can go out and get the best players in the world, say AFL football or rugby or whatever it is. You go and get the top 15 players. They may not necessarily turn out to be the best team. And I think we're seeing it in the World Cup 2020 cricket at the moment, is that there's
Yeah.
some teams with great players who are getting scorched
Yep.
the park
Yep.
by great teams.
And I think one of the big things for leaders today is to be looking across their teams and identifying who is their top talent.
Mm,
And it might not be the person that's it's creating the greatest number of sales or
mm,
is doing the big commission checks, but the ones that actually have the longevity in the industry, the ones that are going to be providing the value proposition to customers in the long term are the ones we need to be working with. And I just encourage leaders of business now to go, right, identify who is your top talent. What do they need to grow their skills? What are the challenges they've got in their businesses at the moment? And how are you going to provide the support to those high performers? Because that's an area where, especially when it comes to recruitment, many will pitch to try and shift people from company to company based on the support around developing top talent. But one of the things I encourage people, managers of teams, is to go, right, give me a copy of the plan that you have for your top talent in terms of what they're going to be doing over the next 6 to 12 months to improve their business provide a better work-life balance, to have a better mental state around their business, or to actually build a bigger client base. I want to see the actual written plan that you've got in place for them, because that's how you show care and looking after your top talent within your business. But many times I'll have managers or owners that'll say to me, "Oh, Darren, we just have a chat. Oh, we don't have really formal meetings with them because they don't want to waste time on that." Well, if you've got a high performer and they're saying to you that I want to waste time meeting with you, then I actually think you need to improve the quality of those meetings and the agenda that you're going to have around those meetings.
That
Because
certainly
for me,
sorry to interrupt, that really speaks volumes of the value they place on your leadership. That's a massive warning
100%.
sign, right?
100%. And that's where I go, high performers need the support of great managers. And you've got to be able to lead in those situations where we're going to have a catch up. We've got these 3 topics we need to talk about. And at the end of that, we're going to come out with some clear outcomes that you as the top performer are going to be accountable to. But secondly, the company also is going to put some effort in to supporting you and helping develop you in areas that you've identified that need some extra help. So that's where great leaders start to really bring their top talent along with them. And I really am challenging groups and businesses right now to get around their top talent, start identifying what their plans are for their businesses over the next 6 to 12 months, and actually have some really written plans in place to help them develop their skills and to maintain the level of expertise that they have in standing out in their communities. So I just think, building and looking after top talent is, for leaders now, is one of the key issues that they need to be focusing on.
Okay, so let me put this to you. So if you go into a business and you've got, like any business, you have your top performers, your middle performers, and your poor performers.
Yep.
My instincts would be, where are you going to get? My instincts would be, I'd look at the business and say, okay, where can we get the greatest growth for the business? Yep. And maybe, I don't know whether this is an empathetic element of mine or just want to help, but I always tend to, I sort of lean towards the low performers and hope that I can get them up and running to at least be mid-pack performers. So how do you approach that? Are you focusing on the top guys and putting all your efforts into them and saying, and then turning around to the middle and the low, or at least turning around to the middle performers and saying, these are the things you need to do to get to there. These are the things they're doing that you're not. And then are you going to the low performers and pointing out what the mid performers are doing, or the low performers and pointing out to the top performers and saying, you better put a rocket in your pants because you're so far behind, you're on the edge. I mean, are you cracking the whip that hard?
Yes.
How do you approach? What is it?
So basically, when you got to think about this, is your high performers generally have a advantageous position when it comes to their commission calculations or their remuneration packages, right? So even if they do more volume, generally as a company, you don't make more profit. The group of people where you make your most profit is that middle group, right? But what you've got to be thinking about is the top group or the high performers are the ones that really build market share for you in a patch. They'll do more transactions, they've got bigger connections in terms of their clients, and they grow a bigger market share for you as a business. So what you want to be doing is supporting and developing them, but secondly, you want to take the upper half of that middle group and start to give them the roadmap of where they need to go to get into that higher performer category. Because remember, you will gain a higher level of profitability out of that mid group. Now, my low performers, I always split into 2 categories. One category is the ones that are up and coming and have got all the potential in the world. I'll put a framework around them to get them to move up into that middle ground. And a lot of that is work ethic and connection to the customer, right? So if they've got a good work ethic and they're connecting with the customer, then I want to start making sure we support them and transitioning them into a more success mode. The second half of that low performer group could be the people that have been in the industry for a long period of time, and potentially the industry could be leaving them behind. Now, if those people aren't going to transition and change, they can really affect you in terms of profitability because they are consuming a lot of your resource within your business, yet not making you any money. And secondly, they can have a real detrimental effect into your team culture. And that's what I really want to protect when it comes to teams. So it's a case of just breaking up those groups into the groups and how you're going to deal with them individually and support them to move them in a profitability direction for your company. There's quite a bit to do within each of those groups, but at the end of the day, just getting people to lead their high performers and getting them to understand that we're treating them as different categories in terms of the way we work with our teams really helps us in terms of gaining more success for the future.
So in terms of your advice to a leader, are you telling them to go in there and have the honest conversations? You probably don't need to have it with the high performers because usually they know that they're the high performers. But you're having the honest and open conversations. Are you doing this in a group? Are you doing this as individuals and say, right, you're down the bottom, you're in the middle. This is where you stand. I'm going to be completely open, honest, and transparent. But for those who want to grow, here's the help. So that's the carrot and the stick approach. Is that what we're talking?
100%. Like what? Do I want to have someone sitting in my team who's not performing, not earning, being challenged by their own personal view of the world, then going to have a detrimental effect to my team culture, and then they're going to turn around at the end of the game and blame me because I haven't provided them the support? I just don't think that's relevant, and I don't think that's fair. What we have to do is lead these people down a path of going, this is the support we're going to give you. This is the opportunity. These are the things that we need you to do. If you're going to do them, we're going to give you all the support in the world. But if you're not going to do it and you're then going to turn around and blame the world, then that's going to be the challenge that we need to have those conversations that need to be very frank, very, very frank and clear about what the outcomes need to be.
Do you get a sense in business that maybe things have swung too far and there aren't enough of these tough conversations going on because people don't want to hurt people's feelings, and it's become a little bit huggy woo woo? Huggy woo woo.
But look at some industries
huggy woo woo. Can we just pause for a minute and just?
That's a great line, mate.
I think we're going to get T-shirts printed that say huggy woo woo
now. Well, look, the big thing that I say around that is that I think what's happened in some industries, and our good friends in the real estate industry is a good example of this, is that bums on seats have always been the sense of what creates a successful office. So the more people I've got on my team, so if I start racking them up, people leave, that's seen as a detrimental position on my office and that I've got people leaving. Well, actually, as this industry changes and regulatory environment changes again, you're going to have situations where you're better to have a smaller, higher successful team than you are to have a big team and try and manage a whole group of people that actually aren't giving you or supporting you in a direction of building profit and also community connection.
Wow. I think we're leading with this is that if we're going into digital transformation done right will allow you to remove the lower level and still do similar volumes or connect to the same amount with a smaller team. They can scale.
You're seeing it in the offices you're dealing with. I'm seeing it in the ones I work with. This is exactly it. Like we're wanting people to start to realize that there's this massive opportunity for them going forward, but they've got to step up to the plate. And again, this is where I say a lot of these younger crew that are coming into these industries now that are more comfortable around the digital space, they're willing to get out there and do the work. They're willing to say this is an industry for me for a lot longer, a bigger portion of my life. I'm willing to make that commitment. Those people are achieving results that we could only dream of. And I really, really encourage people to be realizing is that's the level of where we need to be putting our support into bringing these new kids into these industries that are technologically savvy and really want to be able to develop new careers into these industries. And I'm really supportive of that.
Imagine if you just started in one of the, in finance or real estate or one of those, say 18 months ago. Like what an introduction you've had now. If you can survive and be doing some sort of business.
Harness that learning, mate. I mean, cheap as creepers. If you can put that together in a structure, be consistent with it, and start to show your value of your service, boy, oh boy, you are going to have an amazing career. And that's where I challenge these owners and leaders of business today. You've got to take these people on this journey because they're sitting out there in the marketplace waiting for a change of industry or a change of business to be with someone that really leads them down the path. And you think about the topics that we've covered, being a leader who leads change, being someone who manages the well-being of their teams, having creative, constructive conversations with people, leading through digital transformation, and then also building top talent and making sure that we've got teams in our environments. Man, you as a leader will be well set up for having great business success in the future.
Yeah, I think it's amazing. I think it's been a great episode, Darren. We've covered those 5 extensively. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I just think people have just got to be really conscious that as we come out of these lockdown environments, I say it all the time, but actually getting the implementation going within your business is now critical. Just start thinking about what are the things that I actually have to do and I can do, and making sure we do it today. And the more we do that, the more we can get ourselves out of this space and create some really, really strong businesses for the future using all the new things that we've learned.
Yeah, I think it's true. I think it's that get them to make something that gives them small wins.
Yeah.
The sooner you can get that done,
Yeah.
the better it's going to be. Make a big deal about the wins. Maybe make a bigger deal out of the wins now than ever before. I know I used to work or used to consult into a pretty successful startup, an Australian unicorn business, where when they were a startup, if someone sealed a contract or a client, they had a bell that they would ring. And you'd have guys going over there every day, guys and girls, every day, every hour of the day, they'd be walking over and ring the bell, and then everyone would cheer, and it was a moment of, we're all growing together here. So, they're little things that'll make big differences in these times. And I think covering those 5 things as you just spoke about, I think if you follow at least 3 of those 5, you're going to be well better placed. If you do a bit in all 5 of them, you're going to be flying. So they're not to be taken lightly, and I think that's great value. So thank you again, mate. What a great episode!
Awesome.
I think we can wrap it up there, and
100%.
I can't wait to catching up with you for episode 4. That was episode 3 done. 3 already. Can you believe it?
Good to see you, mate. And hang tough and just keep that machine rolling. Good to catch up. See you soon.
Thank you, guys. Have a great week.